Monopolies are illegal in the United States, but sometimes companies gain so much market power that other companies in their industry have to listen to their demands in order to avoid being harmed economically. Amazon.com has been testing its market power in the book industry. It is not a monopoly, but according to the New York Times, Amazon does take in 40% of US book sales. Amazon is no longer allowing customers to pre-order book titles from the publishing company Hachette. And earlier this month, it labeled many of Hachette's older titles as out of stock. It also delayed book deliveries to customers of the ones that were in stock. Hachette is one of the biggest publishing companies in the United States and publishes authors such as J.K. Rowling and Michael Crichton. Both are highly read authors and have been listed as New York Times bestsellers. In order to get its demand from Hachette, Amazon has been purposely hurting its customer service and the book sales because of all the people who depend on Amazon, and they know that it will hurt Hachette's profits. I'm majoring in retail and consumer sciences. My name is Esther B. I have learned a little bit about Amazon in my classes. Earlier this year, I attended the National Retail Federation's Global Retailing Conference in New York, where I heard retailers talk about how they were worried about Amazon's increasing market power. I found the New York Times article recently and saw that these retailers' worries were not unfounded. I saw that other authors from the Seattle Weekly and the Wall Street Journal were also calling on Amazon for misusing its power. I will discuss what the New York Times article said about how Amazon is using its power to unethically force Hachette book publishers to give up some of its profit, and why I agree that Amazon needs to be held accountable because it not only affects the publishing companies, but also authors and consumers. I will be talking about how the authors of the New York Times article crafted their main argument to analyze and give a very strong position with backup from other references, and I'll be talking about my own opinions and concluding statements. The New York Times article is titled Amazon's Power Play and was written by the New York Times editorial board. On the editorial board website, Amazon states that the editorial board is composed of 18 journalists with wide-ranging areas of expertise. Their primary responsibility is to write the Times editorials, which represent the voice of the board, its editor, and the publisher. The two journalists on the board who likely wrote the article are Teresa Trich and Vikas Baha. In addition to a bachelor's degree and an MBA, Teresa was a Knight Baggot Fellow in Business and Economics Journalism at Columbia. This is one of the most comprehensive business fellowships. She now focuses on writing about economic issues and tax policy for the Times. Vikas, with his bachelor's degree in journalism from Michigan State University, previously covered housing and financial markets for the business section in New York. He now has a broader focus with the Times and reports on business and international economics. Both authors have background knowledge in business and economics, and they are now with a reputable newspaper company. This implies that their opinions are educated and well thought through. Their main argument was that Amazon has sacrificed its core customer service values by making Hachette Publishing Company items unavailable or only available in limited quantities with delayed shipping. These are tactics Amazon is using to try and force Hachette to give up a portion of their profit margins. The editorial board argues that Amazon needs to drop its bullying tactics and negotiate a solution that they can both agree on. Otherwise, Amazon will continue alienating customers. Amazon is trying to force an amount of power that it should not be allowed to have. Primary types of evidence the authors use to support their claim in the article that Amazon should be held accountable include rational appeal through statistical facts, but primarily relying on pathos through more emotional grabbing claims. Statistics the authors use show how much of the book market Amazon has power over, such as stating that they have 40% of the book market in the US and 50% in Germany, where in Germany, citizens are actually calling on their government to change antitrust laws so they can convict Amazon. Facts include that Amazon used tactics similar to what is currently being used on Hachette with Macmillan and the Independent Publishers Group. In those cases, the publishers won out, but this time Amazon seems to be pressing the issue further, hoping that their market power influence is much greater now. In regards to pathos, the article begins by stating that Amazon has often described itself as obsessed with making customers happy. It then goes into describing how they are purposely hurting their customer service in order to force a point with Hachette. In the middle of the article, it states that when a company dominates the sale of certain products, as Amazon does with books, it has the power to distort the market for its own benefit. Using words such as distort and obsessing over customer service and then not going up on their claim really discredits Amazon and has a strong emotional appeal. At the end, the article states, it would be best if Amazon simply dropped its bullying tactics and spent its energy reaching agreements with Hachette and Bonnier. All of these phrases use words that evoke emotional responses. They argue that Amazon is hurting itself. I agree with the editorial board that Amazon's power needs to be checked, especially because this is not the first time they have done it. They are hurting their customers, publishing companies, and authors. According to the Wall Street Journal, if Amazon were to take more profit away from the publishing companies, it would directly be hurting the authors. One of Hachette's values is being an author-centric publishing company, which is why they're really hesitant to give in to Amazon's demands. Authors and individual booksellers asked customers to shop other places when Amazon started preventing their books from being sold. But the Bookseller Association had to be very hesitant to join or condone their actions. Tom Chambliss, executive director of the Pacific Northwest Booksellers Association, says that the concern is that any group action would be interpreted as promoting a boycott of Amazon, and that would be a violation of antitrust laws. Under the Sherman Act, two or more parties cannot collude to eliminate a competitor. The Wall Street Journal stated that the backdrop to Amazon's push is that ebooks generate much higher profit margins for publishers than print books. Betty Singh, chief financial officer of News Corp, which owns HarperCollins Publishers and The Wall Street Journal, earlier this month told analysts that margins are around 75% for ebooks, about 60% on paperbacks, and about 40% on hardcovers. Because publishers are gaining a much higher percentage of profits on ebooks, Amazon believes that it should have a share in those higher profits. The Wall Street Journal believes that Amazon is trying to improve its margins for shareholders because margins have lowered by almost a quarter this year. Even though the antitrust settlement limits Amazon's pricing power, I believe that Amazon is using inappropriate measures to force its way around the antitrust federal settlement, and its actions are not justifiable. I agree with the New York Times that Amazon needs to be held accountable for using its power to unethically force Hachette publishers to give up part of its profit margin, because it affects publishers, consumers, and authors. Amazon ignores its own stated value of serving customers. It decided to sacrifice customer service in order to force publishers to give in to its demands. It failed to win this battle a couple years ago with past publishers, but is now again testing its power over the marketplace. The only reason Amazon has so much power in the book market is because consumers spend their dollars at Amazon. Therefore, those consumers should be able to have a say in how Amazon does business, because they do not have to shop there if they don't want to. It is not right to allow Amazon to force its dominance because it is avoiding completely breaking antitrust laws. Just skirting around the laws, so they're not quite breaking it, but they're almost there. Amazon should not be allowed to make borderline monopolistic demands.